I've made my choice. What's yours?
Barbosa! Marion!
I'm a little busy at the moment!
Barbosa, now!
Find it! Dearly beloved, we gather here today. Today, the gazette of the mask of boxing term.
Elizabeth Swan, do you take me to be your husband?
I do!
Great!
Will Turner, can you take me? To be your wife! In sickness and in health! With health being the left lightly!
I do.
As captain, I now pronounce you. You may kiss. You may kiss. Just kiss.
And that was our featured Joygasm moment of the week. Of course, that was being one of many memorable scenes from Pirates of the Caribbean. This one, of course, being at World's End when Will Turner and Elizabeth Swan finally tie the knot.
Haven't seen it, Russ.
You haven't seen it. What are you talking
I
about?
haven't seen it, Russ.
Are you kidding me?
Haven't seen it, Russ.
I thought you had seen all three.
Haven't seen it, Russ.
Well,
I have seen the first one.
the first
And
one you
the
said.
last one. Har har, hardy har.
Wait, when you say the last one, which one are you referring to? The most recent? The one that we went to?
Yes, Russ.
So you haven't seen like three of them? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Steve,
You forgot that too, Russ. I know.
you've got some homework. I am shocked.
You've got quite the pirate watching.
I was gonna say, like, I can understand after the original trilogy, like people started to like, they haven't seen like the fourth one or the fifth one, that sort of thing. But like, the trilogy came out in the early 2000s. I thought everybody had seen those.
It was a while ago.
My goodness, Steve. Wow, all kinds of surprises indeed. Well,
Good thing you have them. I'll just take them on with me.
I was gonna say, man, okay, so
What?
I'm curious to know when you get around to watching all three, which one is your favorite?
I'll watch them all at once and I'll tell you.
You should. The Gore Verbinski vision of pirates and just the Pirates of the Caribbean world I thought was so well realized. Obviously, there are certain films that I think are a little more strong than others in terms of like their approach and presentation and stuff. But this, of course, was just one of my personal favorite scenes in the entire trilogy, just because I, for one, really loved the romance that was between Will and Elizabeth. And you saw it progressing from the first film all the way to the third one. There's all these different trials and conflicts and stuff that were going on. And the whole time I was just rooting for them to get together. Like you had all kinds of.
I think you were not alone on that road.
Well, and I think that's why it's an appropriate scene for our featured Joygasm moment of the week, just because I have difficulty thinking about certain movies really, I would say within the last 20 to 30 years that had a more genuine, authentic
Chemistry.
just romantic chemistry between Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley.
Romantic science.
It was so fun to be able to watch them on screen, and especially just the writing itself too lent a lot to just the believability of these characters. Were infatuated with each other, they loved each other, everything else, and so it was super fun. And I loved how they had their little ceremony. And of course, what better way to do it in a world like this than fighting other pirates and monsters and having Jeffrey Rush proceeding over your nupitals.
In the middle of a storm.
Absolutely. Middle of a storm, no doubt. You know,
Cannon fire.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, like, I think the cannon fire and the storm and the swashbuckling clanking of swords and stuff almost became an artistic metaphor for what it's like to go through dating and also to go through marriage, and just having the cannons going off due to love or maybe even fighting. You never know. A lot of the spats and fighting that go on. In fact, Steve, actually, I feel like this is appropriate for you to watch before you get hitched.
It's all about keeping the boat together, not jumping overboard. And when the sails rip and the planks come apart, Russ, you make repairs and you keep on sailing.
I am still shocked that you haven't seen that movie.
I was making a metaphor.
I know, no, I totally listened, but I'm still in shock. I totally thought you had seen that.
No.
Wow, very nice. Did you have any comments about obviously, since you haven't seen the movie, it's a little out of context, but
Yeah.
what did you think of that particular scene?
I thought it was good. You know what I thought, Russ? I thought Jeffrey Rush was going to have more lines to say. I thought he was going to be more piratey, a little more arr. And he wasn't. He just kept on fighting, which was fine, whatever. But I thought he was, would participate a little bit more.
Well, as he said, I'm a little busy at the moment.
This is true.
He was fighting off like 4 people at once.
This is true.
So
People or monsters?
I think it was a little bit of both. A little bit of both, actually. Jeffrey Rush, Jeffrey Rush,
Crutch.
yeah, was actually, to me, he was one of the best characters of the entire franchise. I absolutely
Russ.
love watching him as Captain Barbossa.
I'm sure everybody does.
Well, don't dismiss me, Steve.
I'm sure, yet again, you're not alone.
What did you think of how everything was coming together in terms of like the music, the visuals, the camera shots, the script, the dialogue, the gooiness?
There was a whole lot of gooiness,
A lot of fishy gooiness being
not too much
splattered
gooiness.
everywhere.
A lot of slicing and dicing. A lot of water pounding over the deck.
A lot of sea water.
A lot of
salty water.
clinging and clanging. I'm sure everybody who hadn't seen the movie, like me, if they're just listening to it, they probably understand what's going on, but they really don't know what's going on.
Hey, well, for those of you out there who have not seen the movie, I would recommend you see it. Like I said, I am curious to know what everybody's favorite Pirates of the Caribbean film is. I know that just off the top of my head, the first one tends to be the most popular, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I liked quite a few of them, though. Anyway, you are listening to Joygasm, a video game and movie podcast. I'm Russ, Xbox Live Toaster 360. Steve, who are you?
I am Steve, Xbox Live, Stevavitch.
That's right. And we're just, I would say, a couple of salty dogs here in episode 137 today, August 29th, 2019. We are going to be focusing our main topic of the day on Disney's D23 conference that took place over the weekend. There's been a lot of movement going on with various functions and conferences with the announcements as of late. But first things first, I'd like to find out what mi hermano has been up to this past week. Steve, have you been watching anything that you fancy? Perhaps play anything that you fancy some more?
The only thing that I've been playing... Actually, no, that's going to be a lie. I'll stop right there.
Liar, liar, your pants
are on fire. So I played a little bit of Sea of Thieves with the latest update.
Sea of Thieves.
And there was not a whole lot of people on the server, which was nice because my gold collecting was non-violent.
You seem to be having quite a few servers devoid of any other forms of life lately, Steve.
There was actually one time when I unloaded. Actually, no, I didn't unload. I was about to unload, and somebody boarded my ship, and they climbed the ladder and looked at me, and I looked at them, and I was like, are you going to be violent? Are you going to be friendly? Are we going to duke it out right here on board? What's up? And so he just looked at me, and I looked at him, and I gave him a wave, and then he just took out his pistol and shot me, then sliced and diced me. So
Wow.
I kind of figured that would happen, so I started to sail away. And he got like the cheapest thing I had and jumped off the ship and probably got eaten by sharks. And I ended up keeping the more expensive stuff. See, Russ, what I did was I kept the cheap stuff on top of the deck.
Oh,
So that was what would catch his eye first. The more expensive stuff was hidden down below.
and if he was a true gamer, of course, we're assuming it's a he. The gamer could have been a she. You never know. But if said gamer was a pro, they would know from conditioning of other games that the more you explore into the nooks and crannies, the better treasure you'll find.
And I figured something out. You know when you're in the sloop and you have the windows? You know, you can shut them.
No, I did not know that.
I don't know if it's something brand new in the game or it's been there all along, but I walked past a window. I was looking out. And then it brought up the little X button. Like you can do something there. And I thought, what is that? I might as well hit the button, see what it is. What's going on? Maybe it's a lantern that I'm not seeing. And so I hit the button, and then the window shutter goes, like came down. And I'm like, oh, can I do that to the other side too? And came down. I'm like, yes.
Wow. Well,
Nice.
the good folks at Rare, they may have snuck that in because we have put in an awful lot of hours into that game. I would have expected either us or some friends of ours who also play the game to have found that before now anyway.
Yes. Other than that, bro, I haven't been playing a whole lot of stuff. I think the only other time this week that I played anything was when I came over here to play Resident Evil, which I'm at the end.
Okay.
I'm at the end, but I it was getting late.
You've been pretty hardcore about leaving my house around 11:30.
That's right, because my faraway fiance goes to bed around that time, and I don't want any drama. We don't want no drama. No drama. Okay, that was
I don't even know what that is.
from the Black Eyed Peas. Look it up.
Perhaps if you sang it on key, I would recognize it.
No, you wouldn't. So anyhow.
Hey, I worked on The Sims Bustin' Out. We hired the Black Eyed Peas
Oh,
for the
did
music
you
of that
now?
game. Yes, we did.
I'll have to look it up and then show it to you. But I can't play it on here or else we're going to get flagged.
No, I
you know,
got you. I
YouTube
got you.
flag.
I
You
understand.
flag.
Actually, you know what?
What?
Now there is a method to the madness of you singing intentionally. We'll just say intentionally off key because it won't get flagged.
Okay.
And if it does, wow.
Anyhow, so I had to leave because she was waiting for me. She goes to bed earlier than I do, and I only had spoken to her 5 minutes out of the entire day. And then when I got home finally, I got to speak with her another 5 minutes before she
Well, we
went
need to
to
make
bed.
sure you have your quality pillow talk
That's
time.
right. And that's about it. Netflix sent me a damaged disc. Thank you very much.
Oh,
So I had to send it back. And
that
it
doesn't
was,
happen very often, does it?
Nah, actually it doesn't. But when it does, it just kind of puts a wrinkle in your week. So
Wet
it
my
was,
little whistle.
it was the next disc in the 24 season 6. So I had to I actually have 2 more discs, but I don't want to, I was like, I can't watch those until I get the one that I need to watch.
Yeah. Wouldn't make any sense now. would it?
If I was smart, which I can be, I would have opened up all the discs and just let him take a look at them all first. And then if one of them was damaged, which it was, I could have sent that one back, got it in the replacement on time, and then I wouldn't have been
I wonder if those are available online. Like, can you do digital downloads, like just video on demand with the 24 series?
Nah, not on Netflix yet, man. Maybe on Hulu, maybe on Amazon Prime or something, but definitely not Netflix, bro. What you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, as you were just mentioning, I thoroughly enjoyed watching you play Resident Evil 2 Remake on Wednesday night during our Twitch session. It's just so fun watching you play that game, Steve. It just brings back the good old mid-90s memories of when you used to do that on the PlayStation. And that was, it was fun back then. It's fun now.
Glad you like it.
I have been having a blasty blast playing Sekiro, aka Sekiro. I have no idea how to pronounce this title correctly. I've actually been watching multiple videos in a futile attempt to figure out how everybody else is pronouncing it. It's literally 50-50. Like there are people who call it Sekiro, there are people who call it Sekiro. And so I'm just hopelessly in the dark as to how to pronounce this thing correctly, which is a bummer because it's such an awesome game. But that is neither here nor there. I have been a bit stuck, though. I've gotten to a point where there are different types of mid-bosses and bosses that are a little too much like a boss, if you know what I'm saying. So I've been spanked one too many times, and I've decided to go into farming mode, where I just constantly take out the lesser baddies and gain gold and gain experience that I can then spend on acquiring new skills and that sort of thing, which is actually, it's quite nice just being able to run around and stealthily take people out, little hapless victims.
I want to learn a new skill and be a master. Can I give you coin for that?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
so the coins are actually more for upgrading my prosthetic.
Oh, prosthetic, right.
Because if you recall, my arm got lopped off.
That's right.
That was not very fun.
Probably hurt a little bit.
In fact,
But I'm sure it scratched a good itch.
it just depends. Because actually the prosthetic has many, many little toys and gizmos and gadgets to it, making him pretty awesome too.
Does he doodle on it?
He doesn't doodle, but there are many a thing on there that I find to be very fun. And what's really cool is that you can upgrade that prosthetic. So like when you have your gold, for instance, and other little materials and minerals and stuff like that, you can upgrade it to, it has a whole tree in addition to my skills tree. So super, super fun. And I'm hoping to beef myself up, basically juice myself to the point where I can just easily dispatch of these barrier type people. So anyway, I was also changing gears here a bit. I saw an article that talked about how Microsoft admitted that they listen in on gamers using the Kinect.
Yes, Russ. You didn't know that?
No.
Yes, that's been like the case for like 3 years.
So this article said they have been listening since 2013.
Okay, even longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what they were saying was, like, apparently they had come out with some kind of like press release announcement thing where they were almost like trying to act like the good guys, where like they were saying like, well, we no longer listen to you anymore. And I think like people were just like, well, wait a minute. We weren't aware that you were listening to us to begin with. But apparently through the Kinect itself, since 2013 until about, I want to say 2017-ish, somewhere around there, they were actually listening in. They had people just data mining all their customers.
Yes, Russ.
Well, I see.
Shouldn't this be on a news story?
Well, that's what I'm saying is that it was like a video game news story.
No, I mean like the news segment. Should you cue the music?
No, I'm talking about it now because we're foregoing that for this most day. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. But I did think it was important just to bring up because I wasn't sure if you had heard about that. I, of course, had heard about like, you know, smart TVs doing it or Amazon or Google, probably even Apple as well. I mean,
Actually, as you say that, another article came out this week that I didn't know if I should post it on our Facebook page, so I posted it on my Facebook page.
Okay.
What Apple was doing is it had kind of the same thing. It had humans listening in to people asking serious stuff.
Humans listening to other humans.
Strangest thing you ever heard. So, well, you know, when you hit
nerve.
you push the button and you say something to Siri, so people would listen in on what you were asking Siri to see if Siri was responding correctly to what you were asking it. The thing is that with the later phones, you don't necessarily have to push any buttons to ask Siri anything. Siri's just listening all the time for you to say Siri.
Gotcha.
So what happened is almost the same exact thing. Apple's been advertising, hey, we're privacy. That's what trying to separate themselves from Google,
Sure.
right? Well, people, all these humans are listening to everyone's conversations, people doing it, getting a hanky-panky on, having arguments, blah, 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 not saying nearly, hey, Siri, you know, look up the history of bass fishing or
That's
something.
what you call awkward.
And so anyhow, Apple with their whole privacy thing is saying, we're not going to do it anymore. Just, FYI, no one sue us, please. That happened this week.
It's insane. Privacy is gone, and it's brilliant how they were able to achieve it through entertainment. It's just crazy. All kinds of crazy. Moving on from that, though, Steve. I also watched the Cyberpunk 2077 new gameplay footage that actually dropped today. They had about 15 minutes of additional footage, and Steve, as if you couldn't be even more excited for that game. When you get a chance, maybe later tonight, I would recommend you go and check it out on YouTube. It's just, man, that game is going to be
Redonk.
Oh my goodness. Like just looking at they were kind of showing some of the classes, like in addition to choosing different paths, like I think they had like 3 different main paths of being like, you know, more of the corporate nature where you have more things, you're a little more well off versus being a street kid versus being, I don't even know. On top of that as well, then you have these different other classes of like being like a super buff dude type or being more of like a net stealthy dark web kind of person or
Anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, like they actually had more than that. I just can't recall off the top of my head. But what was super cool was that you could even do hybrids of things, and they were showing how like they don't want to like stick you just solely into like a quote unquote class, but instead they have this huge grid that comes up, takes up the entire screen, and you choose your character's attributes one at a time. And so then you may have like, it's almost like if you think of like you in the center of this nucleus and having these other circles that kind of intersect with each other. So you have different influences here and there. Like maybe you have some hacking skills, but you also have some ability to be able to kind of use brute strength, but not all the way. Or if you want to put all of your attributes into just nothing but pure strength, then instead of having to like hack through like different doors or whatever, you just use your hands and you just pry the door open. I mean, they showed a couple of examples of it.
I like that way better.
Even the guy who was talking was saying, yeah, if you want to go like full Terminator style and just take a ton of damage and keep pushing forward, you can choose that type of character. So anyway, the only thing I can say about it is I did notice there was a reduction a little bit in graphics fidelity. Like it was not as like pristine and crispy and amazing looking as previous gameplay footage that we've seen at E3. So I'm a little surprised, but yet not, just because that just seems to be always the case where like they'll have their early game running on some beefed up PC. And so they have all this amazing graphics fidelity. And then when the game comes out, sometimes they end up doing that sort of thing. So I'm hoping maybe it's just the quality of the video and not the game itself. But I have a feeling like probably when we're playing through it, it's not going to be quite at that level. I think the level that we saw was probably, like I said, a high-end PC running the game.
I thought it said like running on Xbox One X, but
Maybe it was. Like I said, it's difficult to know for sure. But like I said, aside from that, though, everything else was just like, oh, man, I cannot wait to play this game. It's like just super, super cool. Speaking of Terminator, there was a trailer that I watched. It was a new trailer for the new Terminator Dark Fate film. I'm not sure how that film is going to do.
oh, you think?
Well, so the reason I say that is because the director is the director of Deadpool. And of course, James Cameron returned in the producer's chair. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe this thing's going to be better than some of the other ones in the past. But As it stands, I don't think it's going to be nearly as good as Terminator 1 and 2. I think those two were just, top of the mountain, if you know what I'm saying.
Cameron may have lost his touch, Russ.
I don't know. Well, again, he wasn't directing this one. He was just the producer's
Just
chair.
saying, he's going to give advice either way. He wants the movie to succeed.
Yeah. Now, another trailer that you and I saw was the new Joker trailer that dropped. I believe it was yesterday. And for those of you who are huge fans of the Joker trailer and just, can't wait for the movie itself to come out, we today actually dropped our August Patreon bonus Joygasm episode. And the whole entire episode is us actually analyzing this new trailer that dropped. And I got to say, I think we had a whole lot of great things to say.
A little lively discussion.
It was a lively discussion. I'm not just saying that because it's us and it's our show, but actually when we were finished, I was thinking, man, I really enjoyed that conversation. Now that was cool how we were able to touch on multiple things regarding just a trailer that was maybe 2 minutes long. And so the bonus podcast itself, I think, is roughly around 40 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So for those of you who are supporters, definitely check it out. We hope you enjoy it. And for those of you who have never heard of this, if you go to www.patreon.com/joygasm, actually, is it Joygasm or Joygasm TV, Steve?
Oh, that's a great question, Russ. That is a great question. I'm sure if they just search Joygasm.
You know what? I was right. It was patreon.com/joygasm.
There you go.
But if you are a new listener, or maybe you've been listening to us for a while and you would like to show us some love and become a contributing member of the Joygasm Society, become a joystick. Definitely check it out. And of course, we appreciate all the support that we have going on now and into the future. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's going on. Of course, I did play a little bit of Sea of Thieves, and I was continuing to play some Team Sonic Racing, Steve.
I know.
To round things out. But Sekiro/Sekiro, that's still my go-to. It's still it's one of my favorite games of the year. Well, put on your mouse ears. It's time for the topic of the day. Our topic of the day is the 2019 Disney's D23 conference, which just took place over this past weekend. There were a lot of different announcements going on. I, for one, was actually quite curious as to what they would be talking about and announcing, just because San Diego Comic-Con occurred not too long ago, and they had quite a few announcements from that particular panel. So it is, first of all, I have never really checked out a D23 conference.
I go through them all the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you do.
Season pass.
I'm sure for those, you wear your goofy hat, Steve.
with the teeth hanging down in front of the bill.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest things that they...
Gosh.
Gosh.
Anyway.
Now you just totally...
I'm sorry.
You just T-boned my thought process, Steve.
Kablamo. You are talking about D23.
So what was happening was, in terms of D23, I don't know how long they've actually had the conference itself. I want to say it can't possibly be longer than 5 years old. I'll have to double check that, but I'm curious to know when they actually started this whole D23 thing.
How come they call it D23?
I have no idea. You should find that out, Steve. Obviously, the biggest thing about D23 this year is that Disney has been heavily and aggressively promoting their new platform called Disney Plus. And I have been actually for the last year or so.
Oh, Google was listening to me. I said, what does, and it finished the sentence saying, D23 mean? Nice.
It's just trying to help you, Steve. It's just trying to be helpful. Anyway, while you're looking at that, in terms of what they had to show, they had actually quite a bit. And I know that some of the advertisements leading up to D23, I, for one, was actually pretty impressed by their lineup because they have a lot of their classic movies or animated feature films as part of D23. Of course, they have the entire Pixar library. They have the Star Wars library, which I gotta say, a side note for it was interesting how they didn't just say like Lucasfilm. They said Star Wars, but obviously with Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones is a part of that world too, and as some others, I'm sure, like some of the classics like American Graffiti, that sort of thing. So I wonder why they decided just to go with Star Wars. Maybe it was just more recognizable as an IP. That's probably what it is.
Sure, Russ.
But anyway, so they had Star Wars on there. Of course, Marvel was another item on the list, and National Geographic. And so you have like this really nice variety of different types of just massively celebrated IPs. But then, of course, the question comes up, well, what exactly is it that they're going to show? Because some of the stuff are known quantities, like some of the things that have already been released, which is great because you have that as, I believe, a video on demand model. But there were quite a few different announcements on here. First of which I want to talk about is the Marvel shows. So they showed a number of different announced, like, I don't know, I guess they just call them Disney Plus TV shows. But one, of course, is Falcon and Winter Soldier. That one I'm curious about just because those are characters that are a bit more secondary from the films themselves. So I'm curious to see what kind of deep dives they're going to do with those characters. And of course, I'm sure they're going to stick to like how they're portrayed in the comic books for the most part, if not entirely. There's also WandaVision, which I think that one is probably the one I'm most interested in out of the Marvel TV shows.
I would have to agree.
And of course, they also said that they're having Miss Marvel and She-Hulk. And of course, I don't really know too much about those as I don't really collect those comics. So it's difficult to know for sure. But yeah, I got to say, WandaVision is the one that has piqued my interest the most out of all of those announced shows. I've always loved the relationship between the two characters of Vision and Scarlet Witch in the films, and especially as they're played by the actors themselves. I think they have great chemistry. And so it was fantastic to see that they're actually coming back for the show itself. What'd you think?
I just want to see more Paul Bettany, Russ.
Paul Bettany's the man, isn't he? And Elizabeth Olsen.
She is the woe man.
Well, it's. I think what's cool is that, like, okay, first of all, they have terrific chemistry with those characters from the films, but also, too, I'm really impressed by the acting range that they both have. I think that some of the most touching moments from, like, Infinity War and Endgame were them. Like, I loved the scene when Thanos is trying to make his way over to Vision and she's having to try and destroy the stone in his head. And
yeah, a lot of expression.
Yeah, the look on her face, you could just feel that in your heart. You're like, my goodness, that is just, I feel terrible for these guys.
And at the beginning of that movie too, or towards the end of the first quarter of it, but when they're in London, I believe it is, and they have escaped together and they're wanting to come back, but they don't want to split apart. And that all that was grabbing me by the ghoulies.
Yeah. And so I'm very curious to see how this particular show goes. And what's interesting is the very limited amount of promotional material I've seen. It almost looks like they're kind of marketing it as an I Love Lucy-esque kind of setup. I could be totally wrong on this, but at least from the visuals, like for some reason I was getting an I Love Lucy vibe or something that represents almost like a 1960s sitcom kind of thing. So again, I could totally be wrong on that. And it just makes me curious to see like what they end up doing with that. Another thing, that I'm hoping for is with all of these TV shows that they are presenting, I'm hoping that there's going to be a cross-pollination between the movies and the TV shows, because I think Disney was kind of using ABC as a test bed, because they had a couple of like Marvel-esque shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for example, and they made a bit of a mistake, in my opinion, in the sense that they kept the TV portions pretty much separated from the films. Like they had a couple little things here and there, but I think that was one of the creative decisions that ultimately was a bit of a mistake. And I think it's very wise of Disney to like have used that as kind of a test bed for Disney Plus, because now they have Disney Plus. It's a video on demand type of platform. And especially now that the Avengers are just even bigger now than they were just a little while ago, it's super cool to be able to see, okay, first of all, they're retaining the cast from the pre-existing movies. That's very, very good. Like it would be really bad if they cast Vision and Scarlet Witch with other actors. Oh, here's the TV show. It's like that would fall on its face. Same thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, having the same actors come back for that series, that's awesome. I really do approve of that. But also too, I want to be able to see a bit more of different events that perhaps organically transpire between the TV shows and the films. So it's almost like an extension of what we've seen with the standalone films versus the group films. You know what I mean?
I do. I don't think Disney would show too much in the TV movie that wouldn't make sense on the big screen, because they can't expect they want everybody to get Disney Plus, but they can't expect everybody to get it.
Right.
And if not as many people got it, but those folks still wanted to go see the big blockbuster movie, and then some folks said, goes, yeah, but you know, you're still not going to make any sense because you didn't watch season 1, episode 13 of Winter Soldier and Falcon. You know, it's not going to make any sense to you. And then people will be like, no, I'm not going to go see the movie then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they are probably planning on exactly what is that we're talking about, that we're hoping to see. And that's very good. You know, Kevin Feige, of course, I think is also involved with the Marvel portion of Disney Plus.
You think so, Russ?
Well, again, I'm 99% sure, but hopefully he's not limited to just the movies. But I thought it was interesting too with another TV show that they're planning for Disney Plus called What If? And we got a little bit more information from Kevin Feige on stage as he talked about, it's almost like my understanding of it was like there were certain stories that we've been told already, but what if we were to change a key plot point or a key attribute of a character or something along those lines? And so I'm curious about that. I'm wondering. At first, I thought it was maybe based on a comic book that was called What If, but it may not. It may just be kind of a creative sandbox for the creators to be able to kind of have fun stirring the pot and seeing like what they can do to kind of revisit some of the stuff that's already been established from the past 10 years of films. Are you looking forward to that one?
It's up in the air.
Yeah. I think we probably have to just see it first.
What If sounds like a Pixar movie.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Loki is another Disney Plus show. So again, big Tom Hiddleston fan. I think that it's really cool that he gets to have his own show and be able to just have fun more with the character. I think one of the overarching hopes also for me is I really hope that they put a lot of TLC into these shows. I hate it when like a show has a limited budget and they can't really like push it as far as they'd like to. Perfect case scenario would be like the shows would be the same in terms of visual, audio, just overall quality as the films themselves. So they're indistinguishable. Like you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell which one I'm watching.
Yeah, we can't afford the costume we had on the movie set, so we're just gonna put you in a turtleneck and race car helmet. Throw you out there.
We can't.
Hey, I'm Loki. Hold on, let me flip this up.
Yeah. Something is amiss. Of course, they also have Hawkeye, which is another Disney Plus show. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's good too, just because Hawkeye he tended to play a bit more of a backseat role in the films themselves. And so it's nice to be able to kind of get to know the character a bit more. And of course, they're using the same cast for that as well. So
Don't forget Black Widow. Right?
Absolutely not. But see, Black Widow is a movie. It's different
That was a
than
show.
No, it's a film. I thought it was part of Disney Plus as well, but it's not. It's actually one of the films for Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah, because you have Black Widow, and that's big news for Scarlett Johansson because she has her own standalone film.
Hashtag ScarJo.
There you go. There's also the Eternals that is slated for November 6th of 2020, and we got to see the entire cast come out for that. Angelina Jolie, I mean, she like, it's crazy seeing her on stage because she has such presence.
Yeah.
It's not just because she's gorgeous, but like when you look at everybody come out and you see her, you're like, man, there's like, she really has a commanding presence where you can't take your eyes off her. She has that kind of a mystique or something about her. It's really cool. And of course, I have no idea what the Eternals is about. I didn't read that comic book at all. And so, in addition to that, there is Shang-Chi, which is the Legend of the Ten Rings. I have not read that comic book either, but I'm just as curious about that one. And to round things out, Doctor Strange. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Doctor Strange Part 2, the Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
Oh. Well.
Oh.
And later on, okay, so let me
What,
let
Russ?
me back up a little bit here. Black Widow is slated for May 1st, 2020. The Eternals, of course, November 6th, 2020. Shang-Chi is February 12th of 2021.
What about Blade?
Well, they didn't really talk about Blade at D23.
When's it slated to come out, Russ?
I don't recall, Steve.
When's
There
it-
were an
when's the
awful
timeline?
lot of announcements being made here. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, they did not give a release date for Blade.
I'll look it up.
They simply just showed like who was going to play Blade, and they put on a hat that like said Blade, and everybody lost their poop. So Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is slated for May 7th of 2021, and then on November 5th of 2021 is Thor: Love and Thunder, and we get to see the triumphant return of Natalie Portman, who, as we all know and love, she's absolutely talented and beautiful. And I, for one, really loved the on-screen chemistry of Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman. So, did you have any other comments about the Marvel lineup of D23, Steve?
No.
You're a man of few words. That's what I love about you, Steve.
Let's keep this show on the road.
Now, the next thing that they were talking about was, and of course, this is not exactly in chronological order from how D23 was presented, but another thing of note, it was the Jeff Goldblum, I guess you call it like a discovery show. So let me hear your thoughts on that.
Well, let me think about it a little bit as I massage my earlobes and wave my hands a little as I'm curious about whatever the world has to offer. I don't know. At first I thought, yay, Jeff Goldblum. I like Jeff. And then we saw a little sneak peek of the show, and I thought, I'm not curious anymore.
I think the problem was the trailer for the show was the problem. It wasn't Jeff. I think
I'm not saying it's Jeff, but he was like, I'm curious about everything, and then he just started talking about shoes. Okay, and
again, I think it's a byproduct of how the trailer was cut, because I found myself kind of feeling the same way where like I'm just like, well, why am I feeling overwhelmed by Jeff Goldblum? And I think again, they just had this very, I don't know, it was like an onslaught montage of just things like they were trying to kind of overemphasize the point of, hey, it's Jeff Goldblum. He's so eccentric and so lovable and quirky and, you know, all this kind of stuff, which we all know and love. It's like, you don't have to tell us that. I, for one, am curious to watch it. I think it has potential to actually be really fun. Honestly, I think it has potential to be fun as like a family show, like where like if I had my daughter watching it and it's kind of this exploration of different things, the way things work, the way things live, and just it seems to be kind of very wide and broad stroke approach to the show itself. So I think that, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to see how it goes, and then I'll be able to forge kind of my final decision on that when I see it. But another big thing, of course, let's segue into Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yes.
Yes. Now, when it comes to Star Wars, we saw the D23 trailer that they had put together, and I must say that, did we talk about this on the previous episode of Joygasm? I'm not sure if we even like brought up the D23ness. I don't think we did. I think we've talked a lot. I have talked to a lot of people about this, and so I can't recall exactly when I talked to you about this, but I must say, and I say this with a very sober heart, Steve.
Yes, Russ, I'm waiting.
After watching that for the very first time in my life, I am not excited for an upcoming Star Wars movie. It is not something that I am happy to say. It's not something that I am bragging about or anything like that. Far from it, because I am, despite what has been shown, just a huge diehard
Nice.
Star Wars fan. And so watching what I saw, you know, of course, the special effects are amazing and the visual spectacle is just awe-inspiring, that sort of thing. The biggest issue I had was just when I saw the characters, you know, they had this one revealed shot of like showing the group, the motley crew, the posse all together. I didn't care about any of the characters I saw on screen.
Right.
And I did at first care about them with The Force Awakens. But of course, Star Wars: Last Jedi, hugely controversial film. There are fans who are split down the middle. There are people who really liked it, and there are people who absolutely hated it.
Yes,
there is. I fall on the latter group when it comes to that. And watching this particular trailer, I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, why is it that I don't care? Because I'm always into characters and everything else. And I realized there really hasn't been any kind of character development that I can identify with these characters. And of course, at the end of the trailer, you know, they show Rey looking all Sith-like, and she has this like Swiss Army knife lightsaber that she unfolds and turns into a double-bladed lightsaber because, hey, why not? You know, she's capable of doing everything else with no effort whatsoever. It just comes to her. Let's just give her a double-bladed lightsaber too. And I think it's unfortunate because I love Daisy Ridley. I think she's a very accomplished actor, as are the rest of them too. I mean, they're really good in other roles I've seen them in the movies. But the biggest issue is that when it came to the original Star Wars, each of the characters had flaws and vices and things that just I could relate to because
as a human being who also has right.
And I just I look at these guys and I'm just like they're one-dimensional to me. Like they go through the motions, they do their thing, and I think it's a result of bad script writing. I think it's a result of just how everything has been edited together, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so I am still going to see it when it comes out, but I'm not going to be feverishly trying to get tickets and wait hours in lines and have that excited anticipation like I used to. And like I said, I don't say that gleefully at all. I feel like I'm kind of mourning it in a way where it's amazing how I can still put in one of the original films of episodes 4, 5, and 6. To this day, I still get chills. I'm still completely engrossed. It's amazing how they were able to capture lightning in a bottle essentially with those 3 films.
What they did with that trailer too is they actually showed that they can make the original footage on a digital version. Mm-hmm. So all this pish posh about we can't do it, nope, can't be done. The footage is too old. It's every excuse in the book. Yeah, I knew Disney would finally do it, and they did. So we could probably all hope for an original copy, but on Blu-ray version of episodes.
Well, Blu-ray is kind of becoming passe. Let's say 4K.
Okay, hey, it's the same for the future.
4K, hey.
Let's just say 8K.
What?
I got an ache.
Man,
I got an ache.
Woo.
For an 8K. We're gonna fork it and then we're gonna ache it.
I'm telling you.
Anyhow, yeah, with that trailer, and you see all the original footage, I thought, ooh, give me goosebumps. I'm not even watching the whole scene. I'm just watching a couple frames, and I just can't keep it together right now. And then it got to the later part, and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders when, the magic's gone. I already know the tricks, I know the magician's going to pull the rabbit out of the hat at exactly the time he's going to pull it out of the hat, and he does, and so there's no excitement.
Yeah, it's, yeah. Like I said, I'll still see it just because...
because I like lightsabers.
Pretty much. I'll go and see it because I want to see this thing in, but my goodness, man. What's crazy too is that the teaser trailer, if you recall because this one was actually just for D23.
Right.
The original teaser trailer where you see Rey running and there's a TIE fighter that's trying to run her over and she leaps and stuff. I actually like that trailer. I thought that trailer had quite a bit of cool stuff going on there, but this one, I don't know what it was, man. I just saw it. I'm like, what?
Wait. What?
There was another announcement that involved Ewan McGregor.
Right.
And I'm actually very excited for that. I am of the opinion that Ewan McGregor was one of the best things about the prequels. I really did enjoy him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I, for one, am very excited about this new type of Disney Plus TV show series that they're putting together. So I'm hoping they do it well. What were you going to say?
They should bring Liam Neeson in, and just like they're making a Falcon and Winter Soldier show, they should make a Obi-Wan and what's-his-face show. What was Liam Neeson's character in episode 1?
Jinn.
Yeah, that'll rattle that one off. It was on the tip of my tongue.
There you go.
They should make a show with them two. You know what I'm saying? They were great in the first episode.
What I think actually, here's a part of the secret sauce of Disney Plus.
And we're moving on.
No. You made me
Thanks,
think of this
Russ.
while you said this, because this pertains to what you just talked about. For the first time, really, we are seeing a studio like Disney able to attract Hollywood talent for arguably what are original TV shows. Think about that.
No, I'm thinking.
If you think of Amazon or Netflix, they have been very good in creating original programming for their platforms because they know that they're having to kind of play along and play nice with these other folks who have these third-party IPs that they don't own. And they have at times been able to attract certain talent from Hollywood to come in and do something. Netflix especially has been very successful at this. However, it's been kind of here and there. It's not like they've been able to just grab everybody and attract them into the world of Netflix. Disney, on the other hand, has. If you think about how their platform isn't even live yet, it's supposed to go live this November. They have attracted a huge amount of Hollywood talent to produce works for their platform that is essentially the Disney version of Netflix or Amazon, like with their Amazon Prime. That is no small feat. And I think it's super cool because obviously most of the talent that people deem to be the best are in films. I mean, yeah, you have certain people who like obviously they're like super good, in the TV realm. But there's always been kind of this glass ceiling or a glass barrier, invisible barrier, where people who make movies, it's kind of like, well, if they were to do a TV show, it's almost considered like a step down in their career for them, versus like if you started out in TV and then make your way into movies, that's considered a step up. Disney is now erasing that whole notion with the likes of these films. I mean, you have Ewan McGregor, who's going to do an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. You have Jeff Goldblum doing his like Discovery kind of thing, who's, obviously has been a movie actor for a long time. You have different actors from the Avengers who are doing things like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and moving forward too with all these other films, or not films, but these other Disney Plus TV shows. It's pretty impressive that has been pulled off. And I really do believe that is going to be an ongoing part of Disney Plus's success, is they have been able to actually do what Netflix and Amazon have been trying to do for a long time and have had limited little woohoo points of actually having success in doing so. What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, Russ. I think it actually began before Disney Plus. I mean, there was a section in Hollywood, I don't know, like a crossing point or intersection, I don't know. Freeway stop. Where Hollywood started becoming less exciting and TV shows started becoming more exciting.
They do kind of go back and forth.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in the HBO, like with Sopranos, I think probably kicked it off. And then you had other shows like Game of Thrones, and then some of these streaming services came out, and everyone started talking about like House of Cards, for example, and then everyone basically was like, they had their show, and their show was their show, and they were talking about it to their friends and saying, more so, you have to watch this show versus you have to watch this movie. And yeah, I mean, Hollywood's struggling to create something original, and if Disney or Netflix or whoever can, or Amazon, for example, also can create their own programming, and they can attract people to spend money on that subscription to watch their shows, then they don't necessarily have to maybe spend the extra money on the studio and the theaters and whatnot. If you want to watch the movie, then you just pay your subscription, and maybe that's the way it goes. I mean, we're already starting to see original, not even TV shows, but movies being released on these platforms. Not necessarily huge blockbusters, but it's starting to happen. It's starting to kind of leak through. If you want to watch this movie, like Bright, for example, with what's his face? He was in Aladdin recently. Will Smith. And yeah, that movie was kind of so-so. I mean, it's on my queue, but I know people who watched it, they're like, yeah, okay, it was fine. But you can see that starting to happen. If there's big movies that Disney brings out and they say you can only watch this with Disney Plus and you cannot see it in the theater, or else you have to wait until it comes out on Blu-ray, whatever, then all of a sudden you might have a whole lot of people want to subscribe to Disney Plus for a while just to see that movie.
I think Disney has been very pivotal with the mindset of both the viewer and the talent, the content creators, because I think there have been certain things that have almost caused both parties to be conditioned in such a way, like the one I mentioned about, if someone is in TV and they go to movies, that's considered a step up, versus if people are in films and they want to go to TV, that's considered almost like a step down in their career. I think even when it comes to the viewer as well, we as viewers have been conditioned ourselves to like expect certain type of programming to have, X, Y, and Z in there, but not necessarily having certain types of production value or standards that we would assign to, say, going to see a movie about. And so I think what's cool about that is that Disney is really redefining how this content is created and how it's digested. really, really cool. I mean, I even think about how a lot of these actors, for example, I think that we're starting to see just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what they're able to do with this, because not only could I see them getting more involved with this original programming on these online platforms like Disney Plus or Netflix or Amazon Prime, but also getting more involved in video games. I think a great example of this is Keanu Reeves getting involved with Cyberpunk 2077. It's very obvious from E3. The fans went nuts when he came out on stage. They were super pumped and excited to see that he has some kind of role in the upcoming game. And I can tell you that at least when it comes to the development side, the game development side of things, there has been kind of this exodus occurring with folks who have careers in Hollywood as visual effects artists who are now coming over the fence, so to speak, to work on games simply because games have matured both in hardware and in the way they approach their material and everything else to the point where it's attracting that level of talent. And of course, like as the next generation systems come out too, they're going to be able to push much higher fidelity graphics. And so that means that people who are used to really pumping out, oh my goodness, like just high poly things and high res textures, everything else, they're gonna be able to do so. I just hope it continues not only with the talent with the crew, but also bring more of the cast in. Like Angelina Jolie, for example, you know, she doesn't necessarily have a presence on Disney Plus in terms of working on like an original TV show series. But imagine if she did, and imagine on top of that, she was also starring in a game and she was a character there. And I think as long as everything is well thought out, you could, you know, really begin to enjoy these actors in multiple capacities. It's not just limited to just, oh, I only see them on the silver screen.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Russ. I think also too, being from the actor's perspective, they have more like of I guess a broad horizon of which more work they could do. You know, instead of just like, oh, I've just acted in movies. Oh, well, you know, being a voice actor. Yeah. You know, Chris Pratt's done a lot of voice work with some of the Lego movies, and he would probably love to do a game. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he would. He plays games. And you know, you're starting to see some other actors, like for example, Kevin Costner was a voice of what was that dog movie that was out? I forgot what it was. It was a race car driver, and I don't know. But I would never imagine Kevin Costner to be like a voice actor, and now he is. And then you have this same group who likes Disney, likes games, and also likes movies as well. And they're going to appreciate that much more that their favorite actors who are in their favorite movies are now in their favorite games. Right. And so, just like you were saying earlier with, oh yeah, you know, watching a TV show with, you know, Jimmy so-and-so, it was a step down in their career. Now it's just a lateral move. Right, exactly. Yeah, and so if someone plays Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, and I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with a lot of those voice actors, but they're going to have some work. People are going to be stammering just to get them on. Probably, I don't know about on screen, but in other games as well, because of that. Game was so popular, and that was just their voice. Well, and imagine too, as the next gen of consoles get released, the graphics fidelity is going to continue to improve and get better and better. Imagine like having some of your favorite actors actually be controllable. So like, you know, once again, using the Angelina Jolie example, imagine she's the character that you control and you're running around these levels and you're doing things. And I think that there has been in the past, certain attempts to do this sort of thing, but ultimately it was kind of a limited value because everything back in the day, like, you know, Xbox and Xbox 360, during those times, the graphics were too crude. Right. Like you didn't have enough polys and textures and everything else to make it look compelling. And I think we're at that precipice now where it's like, wow, I think we really can pull this stuff off, and it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to have these types of people who everybody are just huge fans of be able to be a part of that. So another thing that D23 was talking about was Pixar, and they had two different films. One was Soul,
and the other one was Onward.
Right.
And so even though they announced it, they didn't really show too much of the movies yet. I think they're still kind of just working on it.
Yeah, the trailer for Onward is out there. You can look it up and see it, but not for Soul. I think they just introduced Soul for the first time. That guy was saying, "No, why would we make a movie like this?" So we did.
Yeah.
This is what it's called. So yeah, that trailer's not out yet. That'll be probably released after Onward gets on the big screen.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing both of those because I love Pixar films. The only other thing that I thought was worth mentioning, of course, a disclaimer, they had other types of announcements that didn't really, appeal to us, and they were kind of more for the kiddies and that sort of thing. And I decided it'd be fun just to kind of cherry pick things that I thought were of interest. But Lady and the Tramp is the new latest live action rendition of an animated classic. They, of course, brought the two dogs out on stage and that sort of thing. And so I'm going to kind of see how that plays out. For one, the approach they're taking with a lot of these live action films is not exactly my cup of tea. I know that for the first time actually watching the trailer for Mulan, I think Mulan is like one I'm actually very interested in seeing. I'm very excited to see it. But for me, it's just I tend to prefer the classics. I love the animated cartoons. Yeah. And, there are people out there who enjoy the other live action versions, and that's great. I mean, I'm glad that they get a kick out of it and they love it and everything else. It's just not for me. So, yeah. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting about from the show? I feel like I've covered.
You're forgetting about Lizzie McGuire.
Lizzie McGuire,
or I don't know.
Who are you talking
Lizzie
about?
Lizzie McGuire, Hillary Duff, whatever.
Oh, yes. Well, that was kind of one of the more like kiddie-oriented shows.
Yeah.
She's making her big
return.
Yes.
Except she ain't no kid no mo.
Nope. She's.
Are you sure that's still going to be a kid show, Russ? I feel like that Disney is going to advertise that show towards like the grown-up Disney kids.
That's actually, you know what? That's probably what it is. Yeah. Disney's a master of being able to market to multiple generations.
Can't end the show without talking about Lizzie.
Did you have any concluding thoughts about D23, Steve? I know this was like the first time you had ever seen D23.
Yeah, I mean, actually I watched. It seems like they took a chapter out of Apple's conference playbook. It seemed like a very Apple-y conference. I mean, if you took both of them and probably like timed each presentation and how the presentation was given, they were way similar.
Yeah.
Like crazy similar.
Yeah.
Are you going to get Disney Plus, Russ?
I am.
Are you?
I definitely am. I've already talked to my wife about it.
Yeah, I got permission.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she's really excited about it too. Honestly, you look at it and Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, National Geographic,
National TurboGrafx 16.
As well as the vault, the Disney vault of like great classic films. So like, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Mary Poppins.
Yeah, all the movies you got already,
I don't own those movies.
Oh yeah, you do. They're stuck in there somewhere.
I don't own those movies. If I did, they're like VHS. Like I need a proper version of it. But actually, that's something that I'm also happy about too, is just, okay, in terms of video on demand, it's just nice to have an easy turnkey solution to be able to go and say, hey, let's watch Bed Knobs and Broomsticks from the 60s. Let's go to Disney Plus. Here it is. Let's start watching it. It's just nice to be able to have that. The one thing that I hope they don't do with Disney Plus is start to swap stuff in and out the way Netflix does. I want that Disney product to always be available 24/7. I don't want them to say, because if you think about it, in the past, when it comes to like their animated features, for example, they will release The Little Mermaid for a limited time only. And then they'll put it back into their what they call Disney Vault. And you can't see it. You can't buy it for another like 7 years. And then they bring it back out. I hope that model is done. I don't want that model for Disney Plus. I want it to be video on demand. Like I'm paying, I think it's $6 a month is how they're starting things out, which is very nice. I remember when Netflix used to be that cheap. But I think that they have positioned themselves masterfully. I think that they spent a considerable amount of time learning the ropes from folks who were kind of the tech bleeding edge trendsetters like Amazon and Netflix. You know, if you recall, Disney actually had quite a bit of their product on Netflix's platform, but they were learning, they were seeing how they could do it. And honestly, it kind of makes me think of kind of the next generation of the Disney Channel. If you recall, like when we were kids in the 80s, they had their own standalone channel called the Disney Channel. They still have it today, but I think it's evolved a bit from what you and I were used to. And there's just some of the programming that we were used to. I don't know if they really show it that often anymore because they have so much other programming.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So it's just nice that Disney Plus, I don't know, that's kind of how I'm viewing it at this point.
They probably show it around 3 a.m. They have to play something. So they
Of
play
course.
all the old stuff.
But no, I will definitely be an early adopter of Disney Plus. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to a lot of the different announcements that they made over the course of the different IPs that they now own. So good on them for doing that. I mean, they're just a juggernaut of entertainment. So
they're going to ride that Marvel gravy train until there's no more coal to shove in there.
I'm telling you, here's the thing. People don't realize this. Marvel consists of between 5,000 to 7,000 characters. That's insane.
It's a lot.
Like, how many characters have been revealed so far? Like maybe 50? I mean, that gravy, Steve, is not going to run out anytime soon. I'm not even sure if in our lifetime we're going to be able to see all these characters. Think about that.
We'll see, Russ.
That wraps up this episode of Joygasm. Make sure you tune in next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to check out patreon.com/Joygasm and consider becoming a monthly contributor. You'll get exclusive perks and, of course, early access to the show. Not to mention, it really helps us continue doing what we love to do. Also, you can follow us on social media and YouTube. Just do a search for Joygasm TV. Last but not least, search Joygasm TV on Twitch to see us stream our gaming adventures live every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will see you next week.